let's go to our next caller here, and this is going to be Mr. Benny. Hello, Benny. You are up next. How's it going?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Will you get a hand for us, Benny?
Yeah, we got a 5-5 at the bike, 8-handed.
5-5 at the bike. That my old stomping ground. Someone, I always interact with new subscribers when they get on Discord. They're the first people that people have to DM me on Discord to get the subscriber privileges, because I like to talk to people when they come on first. And there was a guy that came on and, said he was 5-5 at the bike. And then I looked back at some records. I actually have played 1,500 hours in this game, because they had paid me some rake back in the mid 2000s when I was hosting Live at the Bike a little bit too. So I put in quite a bit of time. The thing about this too, as I go back to kind of the lucky chances talks that I always have, it is a very, very heavily dropped game, where they drop more than a big blind. I think it's 7 by the end.
Yeah.
Right. 7. But there's so many games. I look on Poker Atlas and it's like on a Friday or Saturday, man, there's like 7 or 8 games going, right? It's crazy.
Oh yeah. For sure. It's solid for sure.
Yeah. So 1K cap, 5-5 at the bike. Okay.
Yeah. So we're 8-handed. The 10 straddle is on every single hand. It's not really being taken off whatsoever. So
I actually played for the flagship podcast that's coming out tomorrow on the 16th. I played at Chasers last night in this setup. Well, the game was 2-5, but we had mandatory 10, but 1K cap. So like it's 100 big blind cap type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, we're in the small blind, 3K effective. There's some pretty big stacks at the table.
3K effective. Okay.
Yeah. So we're in the small blind. We have 9 of hearts, 9 of diamonds.
Okay.
So UTG limps for the 10, and +1 opens to 60.
So +1 to 60 over.
Yeah,
it was okay.
It was big. People were opening to like 50 just straight over the straddle. So I guess this guy figured might as well bump it up a little bit due to the limp. I don't know. I'm just guessing that's what he was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then it folds all the way back to us with those red 9s, and we 3-bet to 250.
So Hero 3-bets to 250. It's interesting at this stack depth. I mean, you're 300 big blinds deep, right? And the straddle's on every hand. I always talk about how there's a difference between a game like this where it's an occasional straddle and when it's like a mandatory straddle, because people will get it in with different ranges. If it's always being, and this can really be looked like as a 5-5-10, but even still at 300 big blinds here from out of position, this might be one of the very few hands that I might do some flatting here in the small blind. I mean, I know you're probably, incentivized to get that limper out, but the guy made it so large that you calling isn't going to like auto bring in the guys in the big blind and the straddle like it normally does, and the limper might fold. I don't have an issue with your 3-bet. What would you have done with like 8s, 7s, 6s, 5s?
Yeah, that's like the first thing I thought of after the hand, and I immediately realized that I would have called.
Mm-hmm.
But I try really hard to just utilize a 3-bet or fold strategy in the small blind. I really hate calling in the small blind.
Right.
So that was, and then I saw the 9s. I'm like, this is just a pure 3-bet for me. So that's what I did.
Okay, I think it's pretty close. I mean, I think I definitely 3-bet 10s. So you go to 250, okay.
So big blinds and the limper and the straddler get out of the way, and then the original raiser, he calls.
So the limper's out of there, so +1 calls only.
Yes, exactly.
So you're looking at like maybe like 5 and change, what, 5?
Exactly,
515,
like 520,
520.
525.
Okay,
yeah.
all right, so I'll put up 525 here. Okay, yep.
So flop, 9 of clubs, 8 of clubs, 7 of hearts.
Not a bad door card there for you, huh?
Not the worst.
Now, this is interesting here because it is a 3-bet pot, and it is a very tight configuration. Again, I recorded a bunch of stuff for the CLP glossary that is over in the articles area of Crush Live Poker. It is an ongoing project where I'm sort of defining all these terms and we're putting them into words. And a couple of people said, what does it mean by configuration? What does that mean? And I said, well, configuration is sort of position, but it's not just, it's sort of a culmination of everyone's position. And this configuration, this setup, which is a +1 open for large and a small blind 3-bet, is a tight one, meaning the hand should be very tight. Different from like a button open, small blind 3-bet, which would be much looser, right? That might be a loose configuration. The reason why I say that is because you look at this board and it's like, well, this is not a great board for someone, who is 3-betting. And that, who is the 3-better. It's a better board for the person that opened and defended. And while that is true, I actually think it's not as bad as we think in a tight configuration. Holding top set. You know what I'm saying? Holding top set.
Yeah, I had very similar thoughts. And I think there's a lot of merit in checking this in a vacuum, like you said, when you're in this configuration, not the best flop for the 3-better. So I ended up betting small anyway, just because, similar to the reasons that you said. It's a pretty tight configuration. I have top set, so I ended up betting 175.
Yeah, I mean, and then another term, check 100. Someone wanted me to say, oh, what's a check 100? Check 100, of course, is like when you're in a given configuration and a board comes out where it's so good for your opponent that you're supposed to be checking everything you hold. And the way that you keep that balance is even some of your strong hands, like even Jack 10. But, we usually teach on Crush Light Poker a little bit of a live exploitative thing where you sort of approach these spots a little bit in an unbalanced way where you still bet off some of your strong hands. It could be, I don't know off the top of my head, this might be one of these spots where it could be very close to a check 100, although it wouldn't surprise me if you do some betting with sets because you might be betting some combo draws here too. So, I mean, obviously I have no problem, with your bet.
Yeah, I just thought this is like the classic example of a board that the 3-better can check a lot of the time. 9-8-7 flush draw. It's like such a classic example of that, but
I will say one thing, though, too. I have no problem with the bet, but I tend to agree with it. Man, it's interesting. Some of the live chatters are saying check or bet on the larger side, which is definitely a more complex strategy. But I think it probably has some merit on such a draw-heavy board. The only thing I will say is that you might induce a fair amount of floats here or some, structuring types of floats. So you go 175, okay?
Mm-hmm. And he snap raises to 800.
Well, there you go. And I wonder if you induce this. So raise to 800.
Yes. And obviously we just call.
Well, really. Is it? Well, that's interesting because you say obviously we just call. Because I remember this one from the email. So let's take a look at this here. He goes to 800. So if you call, the pot will be over 2100, and you guys will have just a pot-sized bet left, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So why don't you ever consider just 3-bet jamming here? You're out of position. I mean, here's my take here. You're out of position where let's say he raises to 800. How strong is your call? To the point where if I was your opponent and I was raising you with some sort of combo draw, like say I had King 10 of clubs here, Queen 10 of clubs, something like that. I was hopping on your small sizing. I thought that there was a fair amount of chance that I was going to take it down, but it's not the absolute worst thing if you call. If let's say I raised here with Queen 10 of clubs, okay? If you called, I think I'm taking a lot of cards on the turn here, man. I don't know if I'm I don't know if I'm betting a red deuce here. Because what are you calling the flop with and then folding on a red deuce on the turn? So you only have a pot-sized bet left, and if it's hard to play from out of position, and if you just call and he takes a card, you've lost all the value. Not only have you given him a free card, but you don't have the value that you would have gotten. And I think it just really comes down to the fact that, yeah, maybe has some very light bluffs here, like he's raising with Queen Jack of Hearts, but when you call, those hands I don't think are just going to continue to fire aimlessly because your call is so strong.
Right. I was thinking that if I just jam, I could be getting rid of his 8s, his 7s, his 8-7, his Jack of clubs X. So I didn't really want to lose all that value.
What do you mean his 8s and his 7s?
If he has hands like pocket 8s, pocket 7s.
You think he's going to fold?
I don't want to give him the chance.
Oh, I mean, come on. In this configuration, and you 3-bet out of the small blind, he makes it 800, and you just go with it, which is a pot-sized bet. You think pocket 8s and pocket 7s are going to fold? I mean,
Probably not.
That would be I would think that would be a terrible, terrible fold.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah, I mean, for those reasons, I would seriously consider three bet jamming here. It's not even that much of a gross jam, to be honest with you. So,
Hmm.
sounds to me like you called, and this can get dicey here. So, you said you
Yep.
called, right? Hero
Yep.
calls.
I
So
did
now the
call.
pot's like 21, 25.
Exactly. 21 ish.
Uh-huh.
So the turn was three of hearts, total blank. And I check
So this is what
and
we're talking about, right? I mean, it puts a backdoor heart draw out there, but it's a pretty big brick, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
pretty big brick.
yeah.
And like you said, he just jams for like 24 ish.
Well, that's great for you, I think. Well, let me think about this. I mean, I don't know how you can possibly fold bottom set. I mean, top set here. So he jams for 2,400.
Yep.
So I think it's a no-brainer call here
Yeah.
with
So I
top set.
literally,
Hold on a second. So it's a no-brainer call here with top set because of the fact that he actually might play. I mean, honestly, like back in the day, whether it's especially at the 5-5 level. Now, I don't know if you guys have history, but like if I was in a situation where I'm going to play out of your opponent's perspective here. Okay. It's 5-5, which usually means the players are weaker and they're more apt to go to felt with overpairs just because they're not that experienced. Let's say I opened with like 7-8 suited and we're 3K deep and you three bet me and I decide to call because I think that a lot of people will stack off here. I might play the hand the same way, raise the flop, and I would think that you have a lot of overpairs here when you call or a draw I don't want to give a free card to, and I very, very well might jam. So this is a snap call for you. It's interesting if you were to have, say, like pocket sevens here or something like that, or let's say you had aces. You know what I mean? Like say you had aces here and you decided to play the flop as a call. I think that would be a more interesting scenario. I think maybe with seven, I mean, I think sevens is more of a call than aces just because of the fact that you can improve if the guy flopped a straight, like with Jack 10, where with the aces, you're basically drawing dead. But I mean, this is a great spot for you here on the turn that he jammed. I mean, if he's got Jack 10 or 5-6, it is what it is. But I think that for the reasons that I talked about, I think it's a pretty trivial call.
yeah, I agree. I basically snap called, kind of just put the money in, and he immediately says, "Oh, you're probably good." So at that point,
He's probably, wow, that's good.
yeah, I thought he had eights or sevens, something like that. And then the river was the deuce of spades, complete brick once again. And then I table my hand and he shows 6-5. So I was kind of shocked to see that.
What, 6-5 suited?
I think it was 6-5 off.
What? 6-5 off? Oh my God.
Yeah. Six of clubs, five of diamonds, which was even more shocking.
So he defended with 6-5.
Yes, he did.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, I think that's, you can call that a cooler. What I find interesting about that is that this is like one of these ones where, okay, if you plug in a lot of these offsuit connecting types of hands, like he's got 5-6. Now, does that mean that he's got Jack 10 off? But then does it also mean that he has 7-8 off? Does it mean that he has 9-8 off? Obviously, 5-6 is a little bit different though, because I think not that I would be defending with 5-6 off, but I'd rather have 5-6 than definitely than 9-8 or 7-8 to a 3-bet, just the way that the hands sort of interact. Jack 10 off, and probably would rather have Jack 10, but you have to like plug a lot of those hands back in there, and it's kind of hard to construct because does that mean that he has more 2-pair? If he's V-pipping more 5-6 off and Jack 10 off only and not 9-8 and not 7-8 because of the things that we talked about, then it becomes more problematic for you. But just the sheer fact that he's defending with 5-6 off, I'm never going to be making like superhero folds.
Oh,
you know
never.
What I mean?
Yeah, definitely not.
What are you going to do? So, anyways, thanks for the call.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.